Hello again, everybody. What's going on? So, you can tell by the title of this video, we're going to be talking about some Wheel of Time. I'm reviewing books 2, 3, and 4 all in one video because I've continuously kept reading them without doing reviews. And every time I finished one, I was like, oh, and there's another. I finished the second one. I was like, oh, now I got to review the second one. Finished the third one. Oh, now I got to review two of them. And then recently I finished book 4, The Shadow Rising, and now I'm just like, screw it. I'm not doing individual reviews. I gotta just review all three of them. So I read Wheel of Time last fall over the months of like November and December of 2021. Finished it up around Christmas. I liked it. It was okay. Pretty generic, basic intro fantasy novel, world building, introducing your characters, getting the series started. A lot of people said online, the consensus I heard was this book, The Great Hunt. This is where Wheel of Time becomes its own thing. And I absolutely wholeheartedly agree. So far, this is my favorite book in the series. I've read books 1 through 4. So far, this one's my favorite. I know that probably surprises a lot of people because the fourth book, The Shadow Rising, is kind of thought of as one of the greatest fantasy novels and definitely one of the highest points in the series. Don't worry, we'll get to that. The Great Hunt is my favorite so far. You definitely see all the characters develop more, especially Rand. I'm the kind of guy where I value character more than setting or plot. I I don't really give a shit about the setting, and I don't really give a shit about what they're doing, what the characters are doing, as long as I like the characters. If I really like the characters, I'm gonna be interested to hear about what they're doing. If I really like the characters, I'm gonna like the world that they live in. So for me, it's about character. Character is the most important thing to me. Wheel of Time is one of those fantasy series that has a absolute fuck ton an absolute fuck ton of characters. This dude like just was just bullshitting characters out of his ass left and right, Robert Jordan. And that the in my opinion so far, and I'm not even halfway through the series. I'm on book 5. But so far, I have to say that the immense amount of characters in this series hurts it. It does, in my opinion. Um, the book 1 starts out with your 6. Let's see here. You've got Moiraine and her warder Lan. Then you've got the 3 Taviran boys from Emond's Field: Rand al'Thor, Perrin Aybara, Matrim Cauthon. And then you've got the 2 other girls who become Aes Sedai: Nynaeve Almira and Egwene Al'Vir. That's 7 characters to follow right there. You don't need any. And here's the thing about that. Rand al'Thor, he is the creme de la creme, top dog, big baller, badass motherfucker, main character. That's Rand al'Thor. And then on top of that, you have 6 other characters besides him. So to be going off and devoting entire chapters to other random ass fucking people, like there should not be. I don't give a shit. Every time in book 4, when there would be a chapter about the Amerlin seat Swan Sanche, I'm like, hey, bitch, I don't give a fuck about you. Are you Rand al'Thor? Are you the Dragon Reborn? Are you one of the Taviran? Are you one of these other girls? Are you Moiraine? No. Are you one of the 7 main that was introduced in book 1? No. Then I don't give a fuck about you. It's just annoying because every single time I turn the page to a new chapter and I kind of like start reading, as soon as I get far enough into that first page of the new chapter to find out that it is not about one of the 7, the initial 7 characters, all my motivation to keep reading just goes away. Because I'm like, it's fluff, it's fluff, it's fluff, it's fluff. If you look at the size of some of these books in this series and how big and thick they are, you're like, yeah, it's because he introduced so much fluff. And getting back to The Great Hunt, this book is heavy on Rand. It has other stuff. Perrin, Matt, the girls, they're all in it. Egwene, Nynaeve. Oh, I do like that Elaine. I like Elaine. being introduced and becoming more of a mainstay character, because that balances out. There were three boys from Emmons Field and only two girls. I like adding Elaine, and I like her being a love interest of Rand. And that being said, I also do like Avienda, but Avienda does not need her own chapters in the book. That's also my point. Avienda does not need her own chapters from her point of view. Rand and the Seven do, and maybe Elaine, but not. And very seldom is it one of those seven characters on their own. They're usually paired up in some fashion. But this book is very heavy on Rand. Rand does a lot, he learns a lot, he grows a lot in this book. He actually, like, between about a month's time passes between Eye of the World and the Great Hunt. In that month time, Rand has been training every day to use a sword with Lan, and he's gotten pretty good at it, especially when he uses the flame in the void technique that his father taught him. When he goes into that, like, it's this state of like very serene, calm, whatever. And when he goes into that, he's effectively a blade master. He's very good at using a sword. First time we see him do it is he fights 8 Trollocs. He fights and kills 8 Trollocs by himself. That was the first time, and I was like, fuck yeah, Rand can do shit now. And then at the end of the Great Hunt, Rand fights and he duels a blade master. Granted, it's a Shan-Chan blade master from another continent, from a society that was lost 1,000 years ago. So who knows what their standards are, or at least I don't know yet what their standards are for earning the heron-marked blade. But Rand duels this guy who has one. He has a heron-marked blade. That's in the main continent setting of Wheel of Time. That having a heron-marked blade marks you as a blade master, even though Rand had one, he wasn't yet. But Rand duels this guy, and at first he's barely holding his own. He's getting cut a little bit, but then like I said, he goes into that flame, the flame in the void. He goes into the void, this like serene state of pure calmness and serenity. And Rand, ting, 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 Rand kills this fucking dude. And I was like, fucking metal. Let's go. That got me hyped. And then the end battle, Matt blows the horn. They all go charging in. Rand duels. I don't know what to call him, because he's not really the Dark One, Baalzamon, Ishamael. He duels so-and-so dark-ass motherfucker up in the sky. It was great. Book 2 was great, and I finished book 2 just like, oh, I can't wait. Picked up book 3. Fucking drag all the way up until the very end. Very early in the book, like one of the first few chapters, Rand decides, I'm going off on my own. And he does. And he's just off on his own, running through the world, making his way across the continent for up until the second to last chapter, and then he pops back up again. For a book called The Dragon Reborn, which is who he is, he's barely in this book. Now, I will say this, the ending with him is great. It's badass. He claims Kalendor. It's Robert Jordan's take on the whole sword and drawing the sword from the stone, like King Arthur kind of legend. There's this floating sword made of pure indestructible crystal inside this fortress, and the fortress is called the Stone of Tyr. The country is Tyr, and this fortress is called the Stone of Tyr. And this sword is suspended, this indestructible crystal sword, that is not only a sword, it's also a magic amplifying artifact. Like, if in the hands of someone like Rand, it amplifies his magical power like 100-fold. Who knows? It's immense. And it's suspended in midair by magical enchantments, and it can only be taken down by the Dragon Reborn. It's the prophecy. One of the prophecies of the Dragon Reborn is he will claim Kalendor. The sword's name is Kalendor from within the stone. Rand claims Kalendor, and he uses it to fights, I think, the Dark Dude again, and he totally obliterates him this time, and and then he's learned how to summon a sword using magic, and it's a sword made from air and fire woven together in the shape of a sword, and he sword fights this other guy, this other evil dude, inside the stone. The guy's taunting him, trying to get him to take the crystal sword. It's a great ending, but leading up to that, it's a bunch of bullshit. Like, the only other interesting part that I found was when Matt dueled um, Gawain and Galad with his. They're both Andorran royalty, and they've been trained to use a sword since a very young age, and then they shipped off to go become warders, and ever since they showed up at the White Tower, and they've been training with the warders, who are some of the greatest swordsmen, and they've got all this skill with the sword. And here's Matt, a nobody farm boy from Emmons Field in the Two Rivers, and he beats both of their asses with a quarterstaff. That was a good scene. Other than and then they this book has the introduction of one of my least favorite characters so far, and that's Fail. I fucking hate Fail so far. She's an annoying little bitch. That's what she is. And I kind of wish Perrin would just like stuff her in a sack. Like, I get it, her and Perrin are in love, but she kind of turns Perrin into this blubbering, soppy idiot. Like, I guess we can go ahead and get into book 4. So book 4, let's still start with that, with Perrin. Perrin's all just fight, and oh, by the way, the guy that reads these in the audiobooks, he's okay, but like when he does Perrin talking about Fail, it's Fail, my heart, Fail. It's like, oh my, I just want to punch Perrin in his face. I want to crack him over the head. Like, he's being annoying. Like, she's so fucking annoying, and she just gets in the way, and blah blah blah. She does kind of come through at the end of book 4 for him, but man, like, she's just annoying. She's annoying, and her relationship with Perrin is annoying. There's bigger shit going on. Stop with this bickering, fighting. Get your shit together, people. Man, this book wasn't bad. Like, but here's the thing. I think I went into it with way too high of expectations because everyone was saying like book 4 is like one of the best. It might be the best in the series. It started off kind of interesting. Rand is now the Lord of Tyr. He pulled the sword. He got the sword, Kalendor, but then he decides he's gonna leave Tyr. And then he decides he's gonna leave the cool crystal sword in Tyr. He stabs it into the ground inside the heart of Tyr, the heart of the stone, inside the stone of Tyr, and he leaves it there as a reminder. He's like because he's essentially their king now, and he's telling them all like, hey, yeah, I'm leaving because I got some shit to do, but just remember, in case you all decide, I've given you all jobs, I've given you all tasks, I've given you all orders that you need to obey, and just in case you start thinking you might decide to, like, say fuck my orders while I'm gone, I'm gonna leave this sword right here stabbed into the ground, magically immovable, to remind you every time you come in here and you see that sword, it'll remind you sooner or later I'm coming back. So you better have done what the fuck I told you to do. And then Rand fucks off and leaves. He goes with Moiraine, Egwene, some Aiel warriors, Avienda is one of them, and Land. And they go to the Aiel Waste because now it's time for him to like claim his blood heritage and become a Aiel clan chief and recruit the Aiel to his cause of being the Dragon Reborn and blah blah blah. By the way, guys, quick product plug. I've never been big on sparkling water. Liquid Death, pretty refreshing. They don't sponsor me or anything. I'm not affiliated with them in any way. I was turned on to it because I thought the can looked cool, and I've been trying. I tried these recently. Really good. Just like something canned water. Who would have thought? But apparently the company is like they're really into like anti-pollution shit. I mean, which is good. Aluminum cans are apparently much more recyclable than plastic bottles, and on top of that, they claim that they donate 10% of the profits of every can sold to removing plastic from the oceans. So that's a good cause. So like, if you're looking for something new to drink and like sip on, it's pretty good. I'm not gonna lie, it's cold, it's crisp, it's refreshing. I like it. So, where was I? Rand goes to the Aiel Waste. Building up to it, it seems like a cool thing. Like, oh, we're gonna see the Aiel. We're gonna get to see the Aiel. It turns out to be boring as fuck. He goes into this like sacred city area where people have not prophetic, but they have visions, and through visions they see the history of the Aiel and how the Aiel people came to be after the breaking of the world. And Rand sees all this. He learns the heritage and the history of the Aiel, and he comes out most of the time. If you go through it, if you go into this sacred magical city called Roidion. If you go in there, it's because you're gonna become a clan chief, which is what Rand is going in there to do. He knows he's gonna need to be a clan chief in order to have any kind of sway over the Aiel people. So he goes in there, and normally, if you come out again after seeing the visions and whatnot, and you're a clan chief now, you have a dragon tattoo that's like magically on your forearms. On one of your forearms. Rand comes out with 2, which is another prophecy. It says he will be twice marked with the dragon. So one here, and then he has the 2 heron marks here, and then he pulled the sword out of the stone. So he's the fucking dragon reborn for sure. But yeah, he has the 2 dragons, which makes him the prophesized messiah figure of the Aiel's mythology, which call him the Karakarn, the he who comes with the dawn. It's a little bit different than the dragon reborn, but it actually is. It's one and the same because clearly he is it. So that was kind of interesting to see that. But then after that, it's just they're traveling, and then they're traveling, and every once in a while, like some shit happens, like some Trollocs attack. It's like Robert Jordan was writing the book, and after a while, he'd be like, "Man, I've been doing a lot of not random, but kind of random. Like he's like, man, I've been doing a lot of fucking world building and just introducing a butt fuck load of characters. I haven't put any action in a while." And then he would just like very randomly throw in like a Trolloc attack. Or this one was really weird because like Rand just starts getting attacked by random shit. Like he's this Robert Jordan. What I came away from The Shadow Rising with was this impression that, okay, Robert Jordan at this point was more concerned with building his fantasy world and creating new settings and describing them in great detail and creating new groups of people and new cultures and describing them. And then he would do that. He would write all that shit page after page after page, and then he would just be like, oh shit, like I forgot to move the story forward. I haven't included any action. And then he would have to just fucking bullshit something out of his butt and throw it in there. Very early on in the book, Rand is in his like royal chambers in Tyr. And this girl came to try and seduce him, and he's like, "Fuck out of here." But while she's there, all of a sudden, a bunch of like evil, dark copies of Rand come out of. He has some mirrors in his room, and evil, dark, like copies of Rand come out of the mirrors and fight him. It's so random, and here's how it's explained. Moiraine just goes, as the seals on the Dark One's prison are broken and weakened, his influence over the world will start to bubble up. Bubble, like that's what she said. It's bubbles of darkness. Like the Dark One's influence is bubbling up, and it's causing dark evil mirror clones, I guess. I don't know. And then like something else, I can't remember what it was that happened to him in the Aiel Waste, but they get attacked by some kind of like, as Rand and Matt are coming out of Roidion, they get attacked by some other kind of like just random dark shit. There's a couple random Trolloc attacks. I will say this Perrin's portion of this book was pretty interesting. He goes back to Emond's Field and has to defend it because it's being attacked by both Trollocs and the White Cloaks are there causing trouble. So he becomes like a town leader, and he becomes the closest thing Emond's Field and the Two Rivers has, like a noble lord. I liked Perrin's story. Fael was still annoying as fuck, but whatever. And Matt is with Rand. The girls have not really been enjoying the girls' story. They're just like, they're hunting the Black Aja. It's like, well then fucking hunt them. Alright? Like at one point, there's one chapter in here about Elaine getting drunk And she goes up to Tom Marilyn's room because she remembers, like, I remember you when I was a baby, but now I'm drunk. And he fucking get the fuck out of here, gets her back sends her back to her room. Then she goes back to her room. Nynaeve dunks her head in water. Elaine barfs everywhere, and that's the chapter. That's the chapter of the book. Why the fuck that needed to be in here, I have no fucking idea. Unless down the road, the only thing I could predict is later on down the road, it's going to be revealed that Tom is actually her father. But that's my other than that, why the fuck was that in there? I don't know. So yeah, like, here's books 1 through 4, just like all right up next to each other, so you can see how many. It's a lot of shit. This is what I've read so far in this series, and there's 10 more books to go on top of this before the series is over. Now, if you just look at that page quantity, like the volume upon volume of pages, and you kind of you get an idea of what it is about this fantasy series that you appreciate. Like, why do you read The Wheel of Time? You read The Wheel of Time if you're the kind of uh, reader, sci-fi fantasy fan that likes fictional, complex, well-detailed fictional worlds. The settings are very complex and very well detailed, and they're filled with various groups of people that are all unique, and the groups have their own cultures and names and languages and mannerisms, and it's a dude. Robert Jordan is a dude who just loved to live in his fucking head, and he made this world. And it's more of, you read Wheel of Time, I'm starting to realize, like, you read Wheel of Time more just to escape into this well thought out world, not so much to hear a story in this well thought out world, but to just be there mentally. That's why you read Wheel of Time. Now, having said earlier in this video, I value character more than anything else. I have to say, I'm starting to become a little bored with it. If it was much more focused on, if it was limited to the 8 characters, the 7 original plus Elaine, if the chapters were limited to points of view of just those 8 characters and that's it, with, by the way, this is another, with an emphasis on Rand. Like, I always think, like, the series is done, so it's a moot point at this point, but every single book should have featured more chapters about Rand than about anyone else. He's the main character. He's the main dude. He's what we're reading this for. If you take Rand out of the story, what's the fucking story? Now, there's gonna be a bunch of people that shit on me, and like big Wheel of Time fans that's in the comments that say, like, you're wrong, you don't get it, you don't understand. I guess not. But the way I see it is, and I'm gonna try to say this as uninsulting as I possibly can, like, there's the kind of people out there who, when they go to play a video game or read a book series or whatever the fuck it is, they're just looking for a little escape into an entertaining story with some entertaining characters. Then there's the kind of people that they're not like that. They're different. The way that they're different is they don't really find all that much enjoyment in real fucking life, and they would much prefer to spend as much of their time as possible just mentally escaping into a fictional world. Like, I have a buddy. There was a game that came out years ago. I think it was called, like, oh, I think it's still out. It's called No Man's Sky. And I asked my buddy was like, I'm so excited for this game. I'm like, what's the point of the game? What do you do? He's like, oh, well, like, you get a spaceship, and it's not just an open world game. It's an open galaxy game. So, like, you get your own spaceship, and you can fly it through space, and you can land on different planets. You can go down, you can explore. And I was like, okay, but I mean, are there, like, enemies? Is there, like, an evil alien race? He's like, no, it's just travel and exploration. And I'm like, well, when you go down to the planets and explore, like, what do you do? He's like, well, you can find items and minerals and resources that you can use to build new components and modify your ship. And I'm like, okay, well, then what does that do? He's like, well, then you just get a better ship. It's just, and I was like, this game sounds like shit. Now, maybe he didn't explain it to me very well. Maybe I don't remember some of the things he told me. I don't know. But based on what I just said there, that game that I just described just now sounds like a bag of ass. Because that game is for someone who goes, I work at an office in a cubicle, and I hate my life, and I wish I was a space explorer. The life of a space explorer sounds much more entertaining than the life of a cubicle worker in an office, which is what I am. So if I want to try and simulate that, I want to try and simulate that and escape into a fake world where I can do that thing that I really want to do, but it'll be fake. That seems more or less along the lines of like Wheel of Time to me. It's not about experiencing a story. It's about escaping into this well thought out physical world just to be there, because it's not real life. It's a fantastical world where crazy shit happens, crazy epic shit happens. The real world is boring compared to does our real world. Do we have Aiel? Do we have Aes Sedai that can do magic? No, we don't. In the real world, we don't have that. Guess what though? In the Wheel of fucking Time, they have that. So yeah. I hope I'm explaining my thoughts on this correctly. I don't know. The thing that's got me the most like disillusioned to this series now is, like I said, the amount of hype that I saw for this one, book 4, and how everyone was just praising it. It was like, oh, it's one of the best. It might be the best. And then I read it and I went kind of like, that has me really worried about the rest of the series. Because if that was a high point, if that was possibly the highest point of the series, and that didn't even blow me away. But then again, I remind myself, it's like, that didn't even blow me away. What the fuck do I have to look forward to? But then again, I remind myself that like book 2 blew you away. You loved book 2, so you just don't know. But yeah, that's what I have to say about books 2, 3, and 4. 2, great, loved it. 3, ending was good, but up until the ending, I was kind of like, fuck this. And then book 4, Here's how I rate them. Book 2, B+. No. Book 2 is an A+, 100%. Book 3 is a C+. Book 4 is a C-. That's how I rate. They're all passing grades, but they're not like, no one's happy to come home with a C grade on a test. It's like, okay, like I didn't get a D or an F, but I could have gotten a lot better. So that's how I feel about this series so far. I have stopped. I did start book 5, but now since then I got like a chapter or 2 into it, and I have since stopped. I'm taking a break from it. I've decided to read. I wanted to read Dune Messiah, and there's just a couple other things. I also want to read the Fire and Blood, the Game of Thrones prequel book. There's a couple other sci-fi fantasy things that I want to read. I have some comics reading that I need to catch up on. I really want to read The Sandman by Neil Gaiman before the show comes out here in a couple weeks. So, yeah, I have a lot of stuff to read and catch up on. I'm taking a break from the Wheel of Time. But yeah, that's my review. Let me know what you guys think. Leave some comments below. Get a discussion started. If you like this video, please click the like button. That really helps out my channel. Hit that notification bell as well. If you want to help out the channel even further, though, check out some of my other videos and subscribe. Other than that, though, I'll talk to you guys later.